Going on, guys? Bobby Best Fights back for yet another week of breakdowns. This time we got UFC Noche. We got Ufc Grasso facing off against Valentina Shevchenko in the rematch. Should be a great fight at women's flyweight, and we'll go ahead and run through all the fights on the card. But first, go ahead and follow your boy on the socials, on Twitter, on YouTube, on betmma.tips. It's going to be Bobby Bets Fights. So before we go ahead and jump into the card, we're going to go ahead and break down last week, see how we did on the slate. So taking a quick look, we're going to look back to UFC 293 in Sydney, and unfortunately your boy is staying cold. So I'm going to go ahead and run through these straight bets. We got Tai Tuivasa and Austin Lane both at plus 200 and Anton Turkalj at plus 120. All these bets ended up having a little bit of CLV. It's at various levels of CLV. Anton Turkalj was right around minus 110, close to a pick'em. Austin Lane closed plus 168 and Tai Tuivasa closed around plus 185, plus 190. But it doesn't matter because all these dudes got their clock cleaned. Anton Turkalj, first round knockout against Tyson Pedro. Austin Lane got chinned by Justin Tafa, and Tai Tuivasa, second round submission to Alexander Volkov, who controlled the entire fight. So I had a Tai Tuivasa late, kind of regret it, but there was a decent amount of line movement to really sway my opinion on it. But it is what it is. So down 150 on the straights. Luckily, we did all right with the parlays and the props. So the Olberg and Kopp, both those guys won fairly easy decisions. Felipe Dos Santos gave Manel Kopp a run for his money for being a newcomer, but ultimately lost a unanimous decision. And Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya. A lot of people were taking the under 4.5. I really like that fight to go to decision because both those guys love to fight to decisions. And boy, was I right. And thank God I was to avoid a catastrophic night. So plus 120 hit there, ended up losing a little over a unit for $56.13. So when it shakes out, that chart is rough. We are definitely on the downslope of the mountain there. But when it shakes out, we got 11.54 units profit still, which equates to about $557. So now that we're done with that, let's just go ahead and head over to the UFC website so we can go ahead and break down this Noche card. Love these advertisements, let me tell you. Mortal Kombat, great video game. All right. Yeah, so we're pretty much piecing this one together because we don't have much time here, but we do have time for the breakdown. So let's jump into the first fight, this women's strawweight bout between Josephine Knudsen and Marnik Mann. Both of them making their debut. Josephine Knudsen, Contender Series, recent win over Isis Verbeek, looked very good in that fight. A ton of volume, throws everything in the kitchen sink at you, very good in the clinch, and isn't a pedestrian on the ground as well. Pretty impressive record up until this point. Her only loss was a split decision to a girl who's fighting for the belt in Octagon, which is another, I would rate that as one of the better regional promotions that are out there. And it was a close fight. It was a good fight, but two good fighters. Marnik Mann, on the other hand, a Contender Series vet as well. Unfortunately, she was on the wrong side of a highlight reel knockout with Bruna Brazil. Head kick knockout, dropped her clean. It was one of the better knockouts you'll see on the Contender Series and probably the best female knockout you will see on the Contender Series. Tough to top that one. But Marnik Mann, books out on her, really, to be honest with you. She's going to be looking to get the fight to the ground. She's a wrestler. She's got decent ground and pound, decent, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but really not much on the feet. And Bruna Brazil, who's able to maintain that distance with her in that fight, was really giving her a bunch of problems and, was controlling the fight up until the finish occurred. So Marnik Mann, I really don't think she's got much of a shot in this fight, but the odds are just overblown. I mean, we're looking at minus 810 for Josephine Knudsen as opposed to like plus 550 on the comeback for Marnik Mann. I think Marnik Mann has more of a shot than plus 550, but I don't see her winning this fight. I think, I think Knudsen's got this one in the bag, but it's just unbettable at those odds. I mean, I'm surprised that a lot of people are so confident in Knudsen. Being that they're both making their debut. I understand that she had a good showing against a decent opponent in your Contender Series fight, but she can get taken down. She has a decent get up game, but she can be held down. And yeah, I mean, I'm not laying an 8-1 favorite, and especially in women's MMA, that's for sure. So no bet on that one, but I'm going to go with Josephine Knudsen to get the win there. I think she's going to be able to strike and clinch, and I don't think Mark McMahon's going to be able to get it to the ground. So going with Josephine Knudsen. Next fight, we got Alex Reyes facing off against Charlie Campbell. Charlie Campbell making his debut. Honestly, was probably the guy who came the closest on Contender Series to getting a contract, but didn't. He had his opponent, Chris Duncan, pretty much dead to rights. It looked like he knocked him down 3 times. They didn't give him 3 knockdowns. I'm not even sure they gave him a knockdown, but he had him wobbled, had him on Queer Street, was going in for the kill, got a little too aggressive, and Duncan hit him with the straight and floored him and knocked him out cold. One of the craziest fights you'll ever see. Go back and rewatch that if you'd like. But Charlie Campbell, very impressive. His last time out against Streaker in the CFFC, I actually was there live to watch it, and he looked like he was back to his old ways. Honestly, with those leg kicks, mixing it up to all levels, and ended up getting a finish, just like he has in the majority of his fights. So he's facing Alex Reyes, who hasn't fought in 6 years. A guy has had a rough go at it. He got stem cells and ended up getting E. coli because of the stem cell treatment. They were injected into his spine, and he got a very bad case of E. coli, very bad infection. And he's been trying to recover ever since. So kind of a great comeback story if you're looking at it for Alex Reyes, 6 years in the making with the UFC. His last time out was against Mike Perry on short notice, and Mike Perry knocked him out fairly easily. So, I mean, Alex Reyes, I think he's got to get it to the ground if he wants a shot in this fight, and I don't think he's going to be able to against Charlie Campbell. He's got 6 years off. He's got good wrestling. He's got good jiu-jitsu. I don't think he's going to be able to stand with Campbell on the feet. I think he's going to eat a lot of leg kicks. It's going to be very difficult for him, too. And I believe, go down here, do they show his age? All right, they don't show his age, but he is on the older side. I believe he's 37 years old against the younger guy, Campbell. So I'm going to go with Charlie Campbell in this fight. As far as the odds are concerned, I mean, he's close to a minus 600 favorite. So another one that's just completely steamed that we can't even bet on because the odds are ridiculous. So we're going to go ahead and pass on that, but the pick is Charlie Campbell. Next fight, we got Jasmine Jasudavicius fighting Tracy Cortez. Now, this is an interesting fight because I think both of these girls' strengths are line up with each other in this fight. They're both very good wrestlers. Jasmine Jasudavicius trains with Olympians or has been training with Olympic wrestlers for the past couple of years when she got into MMA at 26 years old up in Canada, and it's really showed in her fights. I mean, she's able to keep the fight. She's able to dictate where the fight goes, you know, with her offensive wrestling or just keeping the fight on the feet. We saw that against Miranda Maverick. We saw that against Kay Hansen. She's very good at keeping the fight on the feet. Only person she really had a road bump with so far is Natalia Silva. And you see what kind of meteoric rise Natalia Silva's been on ever since she hit the ground running in her debut fight against Jasmine Jasudavicius. So honestly, don't really knock her too much there in that fight. Tracy Cortez come back pretty much a long layoff. Last time out against Melissa Gatto, was able to get a unanimous decision win. I like Cortez. I like her wrestling. I don't think she's much of a finishing threat. I think she's only got one finish on her record. And I just worry about her gas tank late in the fight, especially if she's not able to get the fight to where she needs to get it to, which is the ground. Because Jasudavicius is very good with her defensive wrestling, and I think it's a very underrated part of her game. I don't think Cortez is going to be able to keep her on her back for extended periods of time. And if she's working to get those takedowns and putting everything into it, I just don't see how she's going to be able to keep that pace for the 3 rounds that this fight's going to go. And Jasudavicius, you know that the cardio is there because against Miranda Maverick the last time out, in the second and third round, she throwing everything but the kitchen sink at her. Honestly, just punches and bunches, moving forward, hit her with everything, definitely trying to finish the fight. And I had a 30-27. The judges, I think, were unanimous, 29-28. Everyone gave Miranda Maverick the first round because of the arm bar that she was just holding on to for dear life. But I really think Jasmine Jasudavicius has a shot in this fight. She opened the underdog. She was around like plus 125. It's closer to Pick'em now. She's still plus 100 as it stands. Cortez minus 120, minus 125, sitting in that area. I think Jasudavicius has the size, the strength, the defensive wrestling, and on the feet, I think it's fairly even. But when you factor in the fatigue for Cortez, I from not getting those takedowns, which is how I see it play out. I think Jasudavicius just takes over with volume. So I'm going to go with Jasmine Jasudavicius, and I do have a play on that. I got 1 unit on her. I got in at plus 110. Next fight we got Edgar Shires versus Daniel Lacerda. Daniel Lacerda is probably the only fighter in UFC history that has lost 4 fights by finish and is getting a 5th. Pretty impressive. He has never been in a boring fight. He is allergic to boring fights. He is just a very entertaining fighter. Is he a good fighter? I don't want to say he's a bad fighter, but you go back and take a look at his record. Look at some of these losses. I mean, getting heel hooked by Davison Figueiredo's brother, who's I would not highly rank him, is definitely troublesome. Just put it that way. Edgar Shires, on the other hand, I like the way he fights. I mean, he had a tough assignment on short notice against Tatsuya Taira the last time out. Big underdog, and had a pretty good showing. I mean, he got controlled in the first and the second, won the third, arguably had a submission locked up on Taira, but ran out of time at the end of the third. So I like the way he strikes. Against Clayton Carpenter in the Contender Series fight, he was really mixing it up and really piecing him up. Got a little tired, so that does worry me with the gas tank, but he's facing a guy who's got the worst gas tank known to man. I mean, this is a guy who just burns extremely hot, like hot as the sun in the first round. You want to talk about an early starter, you're looking at Daniel Lacerda. Like, this guy comes out just guns a-blazing, bat out of hell, and he's hurt pretty much everyone he's fought in the first round. I mean, except for Figueiredo, because he brought it to the ground, but he was able to get the takedown. He was controlling it, and then the guy rolled for a knee, or what was it, a heel hook, whatever it was, and he tapped. So, I mean, it's going phenomenal for Daniel Lacerda until it's not. I mean, drop CJ Vergara twice, and then Vergara is able to get out of it, and then it's like, if he doesn't get the finish, he gets discouraged and goes home. I mean, he had Altamirano hurt. I could go through all of his fights, and then he ended up getting hurt to the body and getting dropped and finished by Altamirano. It's just been a crazy ride for him. I mean, Edgar Chairez in this is coming in as a 2-1 favorite, hovering right around minus 200. The line hasn't moved all that much, a little bit moving in Lacerda's favor at plus 185, which I can't say I blame him, because he does have a shot and he always looks good in that first round. But man, you cannot trust him if anyone's able to fight through adversity against him. And Edgar Chairez is a guy who can fight through a lot of adversity. You face guys like Jesus Aguilar, submission specialist on the regional scene. He lost that fight via sub, I believe, in the 5th round, but he was winning that fight up until that point and faced and was able to work through a lot of those sub attempts. Clayton Carpenter, another one, he had to, fight through adversity. He ended up losing both of those fights, but at the end of the day, he was around in the 2nd and the 3rd round for those fights. And his most recent fight on the regional scene was another one. He was able to drop his opponent after his opponent won the 1st round, and then he ended up finishing the fight via triangle. So Chairez has been there. He's been through the fire. I think he wades through it, and I think he finishes Lacerda. And Lacerda goes 0-5, and then we kind of just go, what are we doing here? But it is going to be fireworks for as long as it lasts. I'm going to go with Edgar Chairez. I don't have a play on him because Lacerda does worry me with how dangerous he is early. But if you like him, you can get him. It says minus 258 on the screen. He's right around minus 210 as it stands right now. Lacerda plus 185, plus 190. Moving on, we got Roman Kopylov versus Josh Fremd. In this one, I mean, Roman Kopylov has really come on after his back-to-back losses to Carl Robertson and Albert Duraev. I mean, his fight against Alessio Di Chirico was kind of a prove-it fight. Didn't think if he lost that fight, he's probably out of the UFC. And he was able to get the knockout in the 3rd round, which was good because he did look a little bit labored in the Duraev fight. And then against Puna Soriano, came in as a fairly sizable underdog and just had a perfect game plan for Puna. Was able to avoid the takedowns, was just ripping to the body. Puna looked a little bit gassed in that one, but Kopylov was just teeing off on him and ended up getting the finish in that fight. And then his most recent performance against Ribeiro, I mean, another masterclass performance. He did get touched in that one and hurt a little bit, but was able to recover. But the first round was pretty much all Kopylov until he got clipped there at the end. He was just piecing up Claudio Ribeiro to all levels, kicking, punching, and then a nice little head kick set up in the second to go off of his early work. Ribeiro just let his guard down and ended up eating one right to the jaw, knocked him out cold. Knockout of the night. Take your $50K and get to step in Roman Kopylov, because you should get a step up in competition, but you did not. You got Josh Fremd. Fremd coming in as a short-term replacement. I forget what Kopylov's original opponent was. But Fremd coming in, I mean, Fremd, jack of all trades, master of none type, really. He's got good grappling. He's a wrestler. I think he wrestled at Division II Stony Brook. But I mean, as far as the stand-up is concerned, he doesn't really throw his right hand. Is a jab. He's got a really good lead left hook. I'll give him that from the orthodox stance. I mean, he's clipped guys with that shot before. He's shown that he can hang in the wrestling. You look at the Fluffy Hernandez fight. He was able to work through those progressions. He did get, controlled by the majority of the time in that fight. It was a debut and it was short notice, but, yeah, I mean, he's a competent grappler. He's coming on a 2-fight winning streak over Cedric Dumas, and then most recently out his fight against Jamie Pickett. Two of the lower level guys in the division, I would say. But yeah, I mean, he's a scrappy guy. I think in this fight, I really do like Kopylov, just because I don't see where Frem can really have an advantage, because Kopylov has such good takedown defense. And he's got great stand-up too. And with the distance management, with Kopylov being a southpaw too, it's really going to throw Frem for a loop. And Kopylov's so used to orthodox fighters where Frem may not have that experience against the southpaw. So I'm going to go with Roman Kopylov in this. I think he keeps it standing. I think he works the body. And I think if he doesn't get a late finish, because Frem is tough, I'll give him credit. He is tough. It'll probably go to a decision and he'll win a UD. So I got Roman Kopylov, and I got him in a couple of different parlays that I have as well. Moving on, Lupi Godinez versus Elise Reed. I mean, Lupi Godinez has a clear path to victory in this one through the wrestling. Elise Reed has been known to have issues keeping the fight on the feet when people go in to wrestle. If you're a decent wrestler, you can get Elise Reed down. If you're not a decent wrestler, like her opponent her last time out, God, what's her name? Jin Yu Frey. Jin Yu Frey was even able to get her down and hold her down for a while. And Lupi Godinez, I would rate her grappling and wrestling higher on that scale than a Jin Yu Frey. I think Lupi showed that in her Carniosi fight, but after that, people were very high on her, and she's had some performances where it kind of makes you scratch your head, especially the Angela Hill fight. She didn't really push the grappling. It looks like she got tired as well in that fight. So a couple of red flags for Lupi, but she does have that clear path to victory. I mean, if it stays on the feet, I think Elise Reed has a really good chance in this fight. Honestly, I think striking-wise, I'd even give her the edge. If she's able to strike for extended periods of time and does not have to worry about the wrestling, she can really piece you up. I mean, against Melissa Martinez, you saw she dropped her in the first round. She was able to just, a girl who prides herself on her boxing, she was able to outbox. So really, if Lupi can get it down to the ground, she's going to win this fight. And she absolutely can get it down to the ground. And Elise Reed doesn't have the cardio. We're not talking world-class cardio out of Elise Reed's corner. She gets tired later in fights too. So even if Lupi is a little tired, she should be able to get Elise Reed down. Sam Hughes was able to do it. And I know Sam Hughes has that elite level cardio, but she's not the type of wrestler that Lupi is. I think Lupi's a much more well-rounded fighter. I think Sam Hughes is more of a big heart, type of fighter, where she's just going to kind of outgrit you and outwork you, where Lupi has a little bit more skill. So I'm going to go with Lupi Godinez in this fight. But again, the odds are pretty cooked. And I understand if you want to take a shot at Elise Reed, because if Lupi's worried about her cardio and doesn't wrestle early, Elise Reed could absolutely steal the first round. So we're looking at point spread for Elise Reed. And yeah, that would be a play. Might even take her money line because it's so blown up. I mean, she's almost 3-1, pushing towards 4-1. Lupi Godinez right around minus 440, minus 450 as it stands right now. Unplayable for me, but I'm taking Lupi Godinez in the matchup. Moving on, we got Fernando Padilla versus Kyle Nelson kicking off the main card. Kyle Nelson, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm not a huge Kyle Nelson fan until he starts living up to the hype that his mouth produces during fight week. I'm never going to be a Kyle Nelson guy, and here's why. Every Kyle Nelson fight week starts the same. Kyle Nelson starts going off about how he's got elite level cardio, how his pressure, hurts his opponent, how he's going to go out there and knock out his opponent, how he's going to throw these hands, how he's got so much power in his fists. And I get you got to sell the fight, and I get that you want to portray yourself as a fighter, like a prize fighter, right? You got to sell the fight. But this dude does the opposite of everything that he says on fight week. It is ridiculous. Like, this dude, I'm going to knock him out. I got power in my hands. Goes in for the takedown against Jai Herbert and doesn't throw any punches. Just doesn't throw at all. Doo Ho Choi, another one. I'm going to knock this dude out. I got extreme pressure. I got great pressure. He doesn't throw. He hurt Choi like once when he threw and then just doesn't throw. He doesn't throw punches. and it's very frustrating. I think he fights extremely boring. I don't know why he's still in the UFC. I think he can thank Blake Bilder for that, because Bilder, for whatever reason, got kicked in the leg a couple of times and maybe one or two good punches, and he was afraid to throw too. So maybe Kyle Nelson does have blistering power. I'm going to say he doesn't. And against Fernando Padilla, who's a young kid who has a decent, I would say, a better than average strength of schedule coming into the UFC, coming off a knockout win against Julian Erosa, who's a grizzled vet, has been around the sport, has had some good wins on his record. Being able to knock him out in the first round, confidence has got to be riding high for Fernando Padilla. And I know he has his holes in his striking. He can leave himself open to getting hit. He can get taken down. He can be on his back for extended periods of time. I still think Kyle Nelson does not have a single path to victory in this fight. He's going to try to wrestle Padilla. He's not going to try to strike with him. I already know that. There's going to be a considerable amount of time spent in the clinch. And Padilla's going to touch Nelson. Nelson doesn't move his head. So here's what's going to happen. Nelson's going to spend a considerable amount of time pushing Padilla up against the cage, not doing whatever the hell he's spewing, whatever nonsense he's spewing at fight week. And Padilla, when he gets off the cage, he's going to land elbows. He's going to land combinations in close. And he's really, really going to batter Kyle Nelson. And he's going to win on damage. And Kyle Nelson's probably going to be like, oh, why didn't I win the fight? Because I had control time. Because you fight boring and you did no damage. That's how I see this fight going down. So when it stands here, Kyle Nelson probably knocks him out in the first round because I just talked all that shit. But I'm going to go with Fernando Padilla in the matchup. He's a minus 241 favorite as it stands right now. Kyle Nelson plus 205. Line hasn't moved at all, but honestly, it doesn't matter to me. Fernando Padilla all day. Next one, we got Daniel Zellhuber versus Christos Giagos. Christos Giagos is a good test for Daniel Zellhuber, who's had a mixed bag of performances. He laid an absolute egg in his UFC debut against Trey Ogden. Did look like he couldn't figure Ogden out, who Ogden was more so going to play on the outside, touch his legs, and then come in and kind of, hit him and get out. I mean, just a pure decision fighter, Trey Ogden is. And Zellhuber didn't know what to do. He's used to chaos. He's used to guys coming forward, being in his face. He's used to Almeida, which is the guy he beat on Contender Series to get into the UFC. He's used to that guy being able to come forward, push the envelope, and get in close to him. Right? He doesn't really know how to use his length. So if you're a guy who, like Trey Ogden, who's comfortable with just touching and getting out, maybe not doing the most damage and being able to mix in a takedown, the Glory MMA fitness, prototypical performances that those guys used to put on, then yeah, I mean, you're going to get confused. You're going to lose. But in this fight, he's going to be met by Christos Giagos, who's a pressure fighter, who's going to be in his face. He's going to be looking for takedowns, a guy who starts off really hot and tends to slow on as the fight goes. So in this one, I got to favor Daniel Zellhuber as the younger fighter, and also because, like the 13 other opponents that he has wins over, he's going to be pushing. Giagos is going to be pushing the pace on him. He's going to be in close. And Zellhuber, that's how he knows how to fight. He's willing to get hit. He's willing to give one to take one, and he wants a dogfight. And that's what he's going to get out of Christos Giagos. So I give Zellhuber a pretty good shot in this fight to win it. I mean, he is the heavy favorite as it stands right now. Minus 285. It's more like minus 270 on the books right now, and Giagos is right around plus 220. I think Giagos has a path to victory too. I mean, he's got good grappling. He's got power in his hands. He knocked out Ricky Glenn as an underdog his last time out. It's just, you go back and look at some of those performances, he's got to land multiple takedowns, and then he's got to just pray that he's able to limp through in the third, because if he's getting all those takedowns, he's expending a lot of energy, and he puts everything into his shots. I think Zellhuber's got the cardio. I think Zellhuber can piece him up. On the inside, I think he's got a solid chin. I think he's young, and I think he gets the win. So I'm going with Daniel Zellhuber there. Moving on, we got Raul Rosas versus Terrence Mitchell. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this fight because it's ridiculous. Terrence Mitchell should not be in the UFC. He's got a cupcake record of Alaska FC fighters. He got his plow cleaned by Kai Kara-France on The Ultimate Fighter, and then they brought him back to be cannon fodder for Cameron Simon on short notice because he needed his opponent, and that's exactly what he was. Got subbed in the first round in 3 minutes. Terrence Mitchell comes out the gates blazing in the first round. And if he doesn't have any success, if you're able to withstand that adversity, which isn't much, just, spamming takedowns and a bunch of sprawls and scrambles to try to get on top. If Terrence Mitchell finds his way on his back, you win the fight. That's the way it works. He's going to, he throws what he starts off hot, and if he doesn't get it, he's done. He checks out. And Rosas Jr., he's young. He's not polished at all. And to be honest with you, I'm not very high on him after the C-Rod performance. And I still think he's going to beat Terrence Mitchell in the first round. I got him by first round submission. I don't have a play on it, but if I do, it's going to be first round submission, and it's probably going to be minus 150 by the time I even consider betting it. And I'm not going to bet it because I'm not going to bet juice on a first round submission, a bet. It's ridiculous, but that's the way the line is. I mean, he's minus 800 for a reason. Terrence Mitchell is going to take the fight right where Raul Rosas wants the fight, or Raul Rosas is going to take the fight to Terrence Mitchell. And either way, Raul Rosas has better jiu-jitsu, has better wrestling. He's better all around than Terrence Mitchell in that area. And both these guys have not been able to gather any new tips or tricks from the last time they fought, because the last time they fought was just a couple months ago. So it's going to be the same thing. I got Raul Rosas. He's going to get on top. He's going to sink the hooks in. He's going to get the rear naked choke, and he's going to do it in the first round. It's going to look easy for him because Terrence Mitchell is cannon fodder for Raul Rosas Jr. to build him back up coming off of his loss. It just is what it is. Sometimes you got to see a fight for what it is. So going with Raul Rosas Jr., as I said before, they don't even show the odds, but he's minus 800. It's unplayable. Kevin Holland, Jack Della Maddalena, banger in the co-main. You got Kevin Holland. He's got all the intangibles in this fight as far as reach. I mean, you got an 81-inch reach, 6'3". So he's got, what's 81 to 73? 8-inch reach. 8-inch reach advantage. Man, math ain't mathing today. 6'3". But Jack Dell is no slouch, and he boxes on the inside so well. And I know people are down on him against his performance with Basil Hafez, but one thing I want to point out in this matchup is, people who just look at this fight on paper think this is a dead even fight, to be honest with you. But the line's moving towards Jack Della. And the line only moves because sharp bettors, books that take sharp action, move the line. So the line's moving towards Jack Della Maddalena, and it got all the way up to plus 150. He's back down to plus 140 now. But Kevin Holland, who opened at minus one, it opened up like a pick on minus 110 or like plus 100, is now plus 125, plus 130 underdog. So unless we get some late life on Kevin Holland, I think Jack Della Maddalena might be the side in this one. It's hard for me to see in this one because it's just Kevin Holland has never been outstruck, in my opinion. I mean, maybe his UFC debut against Santos, but I can't go back and look at a fight and say he got outworked on the feet, except for Stephen Thompson, and that was because he had a broken hand. Jack Della Maddalena is the same thing. I've never seen him get outstruck, right? So both these guys, you need to mix in the takedown if you want to beat them. But both these guys aren't going to go for takedowns. I rate Kevin Holland's jiu-jitsu higher than Jack Della Maddalena's. I think he's more live for a sub, especially sinking in that Darce choke. But that's against guys that are susceptible to getting submitted. And Jack Della Maddalena's got good submission defense. You saw that against Ramazani Meat. If he can find his way into those positions, but he can work his way out. This is a real tough fight to call. Kevin Holland can use his reach. He has pop in his hands. Jack Della Maddalena can work the body. Kevin Holland, a long, lanky guy like that is going to be open to the body shots. I think both guys can mix in some kicks, but it's really going to be a stand and bang affair. And I'm going with Kevin Holland. It's a coin flip, to be honest with you. I don't have any action on it, so I'm just going to go with Kevin Holland. I'm going to go against the line movement. Give me Kevin Holland as the underdog. Finally, we got our final bout. We got Alexa Grasso facing off against Valentina Shevchenko in the rematch. In the first fight, Valentina Shevchenko going into the fourth round was up 2-1 because of takedowns and control time. Really wasn't much that Grasso did on the feet, so you got to edge her in those rounds. In the first round, she outstruck Valentina Shevchenko, and she even had some control time up against the fence where she landed some good clinch strikes at the end of the round, really sealed it for her. Round 4, in my opinion, was heading towards Grasso's way. I think Shevchenko landed some decent shots, but it was more of that 50-50, and then she was able to grab the back and get the submission. Honestly, that submission wasn't even under the neck. It was on the chin. It was literally just almost like a neck crank. Just the pressure on the chin got Valentina to tap, which is concerning to me. I think Valentina Shevchenko does not change up her game plan. It's the same thing. It's come out in that Muay Thai stance. She's going to be lifting the leg, like faking the check, doing her feints, but it's going to be a jump in 1-2. She's going to throw some kicks, and then she's going to mix in the spinning attacks, which makes you go, ooh, ah, like a spinning back fist or, a spinning kick to the gut. And the crowd's going to go, ooh, and the judges are going to go, ooh, and they're going to mark the round for her. If it's close in the stand-up, she goes to the wrestling. That's what she did against Grasso. Grasso was out striking her. She's go, all right, plan B, to the wrestling. But in the fourth round, Shevchenko was telegraphing her shots. Grasso was reading them, and she was not going to be able to get that fight down in the fourth round or the fifth round. It was going to be standing. And then she did the spinning attack, and obviously Grasso was able to get her back. But in this fight, I think Grasso has that boxing, and I think she's a step quicker than Valentina Shevchenko. And being the younger fighter in this one, honestly, I just think Valentina's lost a step or two. And I don't think she really feels like she needs to change her game plan. And she absolutely does. She needs something new. She needs something fresh. She needs like a wrinkle in her game plan in this one. I think she's going to go to the takedowns early in this one. She may get them. She's probably going to get them. But I think Grasso can Grasso can learn from that performance and have better takedown defense and know when Shevchenko is going to shoot. And Shevchenko is not going to make any adjustments to Grasso in her stand-up. She's still going to find herself in the same positions, eating the same shots. And she's going to tire herself out because she's going to go to the wrestling well even earlier, probably in the first round. And by the third round rolls around, she's going to be gassed. And I think Grasso takes over. So unless Valentina can bank the first 3 rounds, I think Grasso wins this one. I'm going with her as the underdog at plus 142. I even got a bet on her in that one. So plus 142, lines right around plus 145 as it stands right now. Not too much movement. Valentina's right around minus 166, minus 170 if you like her. But that concludes the card. I hope everyone learned a little something new, threw a wrinkle at you. As always, like, comment, subscribe, help your boy out. I've been at 29 subscribers for a while. Get me to that 30 mark. That would be dope if someone could help me out there. Other than that, enjoy the fights. And yeah, Bobby bets fights. Hasta luego, muchachos. UFC Noche. Let's get it.